you became really famous during this time with K-Rock. It was like the biggest station out there. You're doing this new wave. You're doing music you love. You're introducing, one of the biggest music scenes in the world to British music, new wave music, alternative music. And in doing so, you were sort of, like I said before, the conduit. You formed huge relationships. I mean, I saw an interview where you're, after Andrew Fletcher of Depeche Mode passed away, and God rest his soul, you knew him, and you were texting with Martin Gore, who wrote all the Depeche Mode songs and still does, and he's texting you right back, and you have this relationship with so many people, and you dated the beautiful Terry Nunn from Berlin, Take My Breath Away, and you had a passionate relationship with her. All these relationships, did you ever get to a point where you mixed up in drugs? Were you mixed up in the scene? Were you drinking a lot? Did you always have a good head on your shoulders, or were you enjoying it like everybody else and getting in too much, getting too deep?
I never did drugs. I drank 2 times. I mean, I did cocaine twice. I never.
With who?
One time. It was with a record company, Geek, and a couple of bands in Riverside. The other time, I was doing a TV show called MV3, and the producer of it, I mean, the show was a hit. It was on in 50 cities. It was massive in LA, and the producer put it up his nose. But what happened, he had a little studio in Burbank, a sound stage. It was a converted Chinese laundry. That he made into a soundstage. He owned it himself, so he had the potential to make nothing but money because he had, no costs, etc. But he was not delivering on time.
Right.
And we at one point had the Psychedelic Furs there on stage, and 100 dancers. And the Psychedelic Furs. This was in June, and the sun was baking down.
What year?
June of 1983.
Okay.
Sun was baking down on this, tin roof, and the air conditioning was cranking, and it was the big halogen lights, not LED, halogen lights, heating everything up. And the Furs were there, and Richard Butler in his long coat, and the dancers' body heat. It was crazy. It was getting hot and sweaty, and they'd done their sound check, and for an hour, they were just standing on stage, and the dancers were milling around. And the floor manager finally said to me, he goes, "If we don't roll tape, we're going to lose the band." He said, "We got to do something." I said, "Well, why isn't he rolling tape?" The guy upstairs, the producer. And he says, "Fuck, you know what he's like." He said, you go up. He'll listen to you," because I was one of the 3 hosts. But at that point, I was actually one of 2 hosts, one had quit already. And so I went up to see him, and I walk into his little edit bay studio, which was upstairs, so he could look down through the glass and see everything and call edits and cuts and which camera. We had 3 cameras shooting. And I walk in, and to me, in hindsight, and I'm sure it wasn't this big, there was a mound of coke, like in Scarface, on his desk. But I'm sure it's probably fist size. But to me, it was, a small Everest. And next to it, a snub-nosed 38, because the Teamsters had been coming around repossessing some of the cameras, and they'd already taken out the crane.
Right.
And so I said, "We have to roll tape or we lose the band." And he goes, "Listen, Daddy," because he's had his vocal tick. Everyone was Daddy. "Listen, Daddy, I'll roll tape if you do a line with me." I said, "I can't do that." I said, "I got to be on camera." He goes, "You need it. It'll make you better." And I'm like, "If I do a line, will you roll tape?" And he said, "I'll roll it if you do a line." So I said, "Okay." And he gets this, 520 or whatever it was, rolled up. He does a sniff first. So I go down and do it. And I'm like, I'm expecting rainbows and unicorns. And all I get is I'm grinding my back teeth because I'm naturally hyper anyway. I'm like, "Okay, let's roll tape." And he goes, "Do another line." I said, "That wasn't the deal. You said I'd do a line and we'd roll tape." And he go, "Why don't you get the fuck out of here and you tell them to roll tape yourself? You can do that, right?" And I went, "Okay." And I went down. I said, "All right, roll tape." And then from then on, it was me and a guy called Peter Facer. I think you met Peter. Yeah. That would call all the rolls because the producer-director didn't do it. And 2 months later, the show went off the air.
But Jesus.